I hope you have been able to move a little bit, prepare your minds for the next session in which we will deepen the practice of dialogue in a more methodological way. For this, as Victor mentioned before, have the honorable presence of our dialogue expert, Larysa Michalska. Larysa was graduated in religious studies and Jewish studies in the Jagiellonian University at Krakow and a PhD candidate in the Institute for Study of Religions. For 7 years, she has supported various organizations as educator, coordinator, and project manager. In her academic work, she's focused on different aspects of Jewish culture, identity, alternative forms of religion, and spirituality. Her professional interest is international collaboration and intercultural dialogue, of course. She strongly believes in dialogue and the idea of an equal but diverse society. Without further ado, Larysa, thank you very much for being here. It is a pleasure to give you the floor.
Thank you, Federico. Thank you, all of you. It's really nice to see you. It's really nice to see some old friends, at least in these small boxes on my screen. I'm really happy to be with you today, but I'm also aware of this challenge because I'm the last speaker and we heard already so great presentations. So it's always challenging to be the last one. And I would like to share with you some ideas, some tools. Since we are working together last month on some specific ideas, you will get to know tomorrow, but no spoilers until then. So I would like to give you the overview about practical part of leading the dialogue, organizing the dialogue, etc. And I know that the day is already quite long and you all spent probably a long time in front of your screens. So I planned a bit more interactive meeting. So let me share my screen first. As it was said, we will talk about this practical approach about intercultural dialogue and dialogue in general. So I have the first task for all of you. So I'm really happy that this tool was used already today. I would like to ask you what, in your opinion, is a dialogue? And I would like to invite you to visit the website menti.com and please put this code. You will have the 3 boxes where you can write the keyword. What comes to your mind when you think about a dialogue? I will give you some seconds more. I see already the results. I will share with you the results when it will be more or less ready. Let me show you how it looks like now. So thank you very much for all of your answers. Just to check if you all see this cloud of words. You can see here the biggest word is
sorry, Larysa, we cannot see the. I think that maybe you need to share again your screen, but with the other. Now, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry. So as you can see, the biggest word here is listening. But as you probably know, the listening is a very difficult task, and it's also a challenge to really listen others. We have here education, understanding, respect, communication, sharing, and so many different words which come to your mind when you think about the dialogue. And Marta showed us this excellent presentation with different definitions, with showing the approach, theoretical approach about the dialogue. And me personally, in my work, I used the definition and the approach made by one organization. Is called the Nansen organization. Nansen Center for Peace and Dialogue. And according to this organization, dialogue is a way of communication which focuses, I'm sorry, something is disturbing here, focuses on understanding the other rather than trying to convince them that you are right. This understanding enables us to build sustainable relationships and can create a solid foundation for successful mediation and negotiations. And this is something what appeared already, I believe, in the questions you asked until now, that we need to be open to others. We cannot be focused only on ourselves. And I use this definition because it's quite simple, but it also shows these different layers of the dialogue. And what are the objectives of the dialogue? Because of course, as you mentioned on this word cloud, there is a communication, listening, understanding each other. But when we decide to have a dialogue with others, we try to share the vision of the world, and we try to understand and learn from those who maybe don't see the world in the same shape as we do. It's this concept of this openness, not only to listen, but also trying to understand and go and be more empathetic as well. And we try to identify what we have in common and what are the differences between us. And recently I participated in a training with teachers actually, and there was some concept how to teach children, students about the Jewish culture and about the Holocaust also. And there was an idea to use kind of drama concept and try to show how Jews experience some events. But actually, the teachers were more focused on this negative aspects. They didn't think about the similarities. They didn't think about the positive aspects, which are always, I believe, the first step to understand others. First, let's try to search what we have in common, what we can talk about in this, daily basis. And later, when we are familiar with each other, when we feel safe together and comfortable, then we can go a bit further. And we try to, during the dialogue, try to achieve the consensus. And disputes should not be resolved by violence. This is the basis of the dialogue. And as it was mentioned already in these conversations before, the peaceful dialogue is the thing what we try to achieve. And we try to build the bridges between different groups, different people, different approaches. And we try to share the practices and especially in the intercultural dialogue, what we're talking about. And what is the most important, I believe, for all of you who are here today, the dialogue, one of the objectives of the dialogue is to develop the new projects. And I know that many of you realize already many great projects. I saw already some ideas which will be presented tomorrow. And it's amazing how many different ideas can be connected with a dialogue. But there is one danger, something which Marta already underlined. We need to keep in mind that we are talking about a dialogue, that the dialogue is not the same as a discussion, as a dispute, that is not a debate. We need to remember what are the objectives of dialogue and what are the main characteristics of the dialogue. But what are the conditions to lead the dialogue? So first of all, dialogue is equal. All the parts of dialogue must be equal. And it already appeared when we spoke about the place where the dialogue can be organized. I believe Valerie mentioned that when they organize the dialogue. So it's really important to organize the dialogue in neutral place, that all the parts of the dialogue feel safe and comfortable. We cannot give the feeling to any of the participants that someone is more important or someone is on the higher position or is more privileged in the dialogue. Because without that, we are losing the main rule in the dialogue. The dialogue is voluntary. We cannot force anyone to take part in the dialogue. We can invite others, and sometimes we can hear no. That could be the situation that someone will refuse. But there's no, no problem to keep trying. We can ask after some time. We can propose some additional activities, and then maybe we'll convince the group or the person to participate in our dialogue. We need to be ready to look on the difficulties. We have to be objective also. We try to be objective in this whole process. And we need to be able to find the common language. And the common language is not always the same language we talk. We use. Sometimes it's just this general understanding others, this openness to understand others and to be open on the differences. But there are the conditions, but how to do all of that? First of all, start with yourself. We need to take a look on ourselves and see what is important for us. We need to think about our identity. We need to think about diversity and the potential which is in others. We need to see in other person or other group, valuable person or valuable institution, someone who can be a partner in our process in the dialogue. We need to check what are our values, because if you don't know that, it's difficult to talk about the values in general. And it's difficult to talk with others because we don't build this basis at the beginning. We need to answer the questions, what means, for example, heritage or culture, identity for us? Because if we don't know that, how we can have the dialogue with others? We cannot build the understanding. We cannot build this bridge because we use terms which we ourselves don't understand, maybe. And we need to move beyond. It's necessary to have this wider perspective. We cannot be focused only on one small part of the problem of the project. And as I mentioned, we have to invite others to the dialogue. It has to be polite, nice, kind invitation. We cannot force anyone because it's against the main rules in the dialogue. And we know what are the objectives. We know what are the conditions. We more or less know how to do it, but what are the tools? So I would like to present you some of them. And one of them, maybe some of you know that, is a circle, identity circle. You can use it when you think about yourself, and it can be used when you think about your organization, community, institution, because it's good to answer the basic questions, because maybe it may happen that the members of one community understand all of this, let's say, circles here differently. We need to be aware what is the philosophy of our organization, what is the approach, maybe their professional and societal role is different, maybe it's not the same. And maybe the employers or the members of the community understand it differently. So it's good to answer these questions at the beginning. And we all belong to different groups. And thanks to this simple exercise, we can understand differences between us. Even if we belong to the same group, we are still different. And we might have different understanding of the values of, for example, the organization we are working for. And it's good to clarify such things at the beginning before we start the dialogue process with others. And another simple tool you can find also in the materials you got is, for example, identity flower. It might be also the identity star. So you can use it for yourself, you can use it for your organization. And it's a very graphic way to illustrate what is important for us. You can answer the questions, what are the most important parts of identity for you, or for your organization or your community? And for example, you can answer these questions about your background, what are your roles at your work, in your community, in the family, what are the goals, or what are your values also. And to keep you, on the highest level of concentration, I would like to ask you again to check Mentimeter and to check what is identity for you, or what is important when you think about identity. So here is the new code. Please check the Mentimeter website and let's see what we have in common or what are the differences. Please let me know if you see the word cloud.
No, Larysa, we cannot see the. We're still seeing the presentation at the moment. Now, yes, perfect.
So you can see that the biggest this time is belonging and self, what was really interesting. And you can see also that there are different words here. We don't have the same elements as an identity. And we are all involved in more or less the same sphere, but you can see how different things are important for us and how differently we understand the same terms. So you can imagine how different can be understanding of the same terms by people not connected, let's say, with the Jewish culture, as we were talking about, that we maybe should make this step to invite others to go out and to show something to people who didn't participate before in any events, because they don't know anything about the Jewish culture. Sometimes they are not aware that there is a Jewish community in their hometown, and many of people didn't meet any Jew before. So this is the moment maybe where we should make the step and show others what can be offered by the Jewish communities, by the Jewish organization, also to non-Jews, to make it more open, to invite to the dialogue, because without that we cannot start any cooperation actually. So thank you very much for all of that. Let's go back to the presentation, because I have something more for you. Okay, so there are also the key qualities of the dialogue, and we have to keep that in mind, because very important is integrity. And we have to remember that the dialogue is not only the spoken language. There are all of the gestures, there are non-verbal communication elements, there are pictures, there's everything what you can, for example, can find on the websites also. This is the way of communication, what can be included. That could be this background for the dialogue. Dialogue is definitely challenging. We know that very good. But I think this is one of these challenges we would like to have in our lives. We would like to face such obstacles and moving forward, sharing important things, sharing values with others. Humility is also really important. And during the dialogue, this whole process, as I said, it's important to keep balance and to show that all of the participants are equal. We cannot be focused on the weaknesses of any participant of the dialogue, because that will ruin the whole process. We need to carry for the other. There are different ways of understanding of that. For example, creating the safe space for the dialogue is already a way of caring the other. And we have to have this common language, so to understand others. Understanding first, be open to understand others. Don't think only that I'm the one who is right, I'm the one who knows the best, because we need to understand others, then the others can understand us. It's not one-sided. So it's really important in the dialogue process. Dialogue is about understanding, exploring, and building new relationships. That could be the beginning of the future projects, future cooperation, or friendships simply. And we have to keep in mind that the result of the dialogue, what is really important, is not necessarily the agreement. We don't have to agree for something. We need to understand that we can be different. We need to understand that the final step in the dialogue is not necessary to say, I'm right or you are right. Maybe we both are right. So this is this challenge also in the dialogue. No judgments. What was mentioned already. Judging, blaming can destroy the dialogue, can destroy the basis on which we are building the dialogue. As I mentioned, the non-verbal communication is also really important, and the change as a result of the dialogue, because there should be a change. It doesn't have to be so-called big change, visible change, but that can be a change in you or the participant of the dialogue. So sometimes we might think that we are unsuccessful in that, but in general, it might happen that you change someone's life, and maybe you change your own life. So this is the importance of the dialogue, of having the dialogue. And how perception, stereotypes, and prejudices influence our judgments. It's really important, because sometimes it's unconscious. Sometimes, even if we are working on that sphere of intercultural, of understanding, of dialogue, we still have some prejudices. And sometimes our first thoughts are different than we would like to have. And that influence our life so much. So I propose one short exercise also for you now. Some of you know that exercise already from our previous sessions, and some of you I know like this exercise and wanted to have more time to work on that. So the title is The King and the Queen. On the screen you can see the full text, and I will ask you to write to read it, and then I will tell you what is the next step. Spoiler, sorry. So just a few more seconds, and as you saw in the spoiler, I will ask you again to visit Mentimeter with another code. And this text will be on the screen again. So if you didn't finish reading, so you can come back to this text. So please check the website and put the new code. And I will ask you to kind of vote from 1 to 5, who is guilty in that case? Who you think is guilty in the case of Queen's death? The question will be also in the Mentimeter, so you won't forget the task. And there are few characters. There is a queen, there is a king, there is a lover, there is a god who fell asleep, and there is a god who killed. So who is the most guilty, who is a bit less guilty, and so far. So we already have some votes here. So a few more seconds for the voters. Okay, so the last voting, and it seems that we have the guilty one here. Okay, so you think that the king is the most guilty here, but on the second position, just after him is the queen. There was a shift now, lover with the god who killed the queen. So there are some undecided people also, I believe. There are still some changes. I think now is a bit easier when we were working on this activity last time. There were some discussions because I remember you were undecided who is the most guilty, who is not guilty at all, and so on. So here you can see the graphic version of that also and how it's changing. And I just want to remind you what I said already, that we are more or less working on the same sphere. We are talking about a dialogue, and we share some values for sure, at least in our work. And you can see that this one little task can show how different ways of thinking we have, and how different understanding of one little story, fairy tale, which maybe happened, maybe not, we don't know that, but it can cause to many discussions, and some even fights of who is right in that case or who is not. So the final result, let's say it's the king, the queen, the lover, and the god almost at the same position, and the god who fell asleep is the least guilty because he was sleeping simply. So no guilt here. So let's just go back to the presentation for a second, because I'm sharing with you this this task, this activity. I'm showing you what you can do with this little story, not only because it's interesting to see the results in each group, but also there is other purpose. Sorry, I just need to. Can you see the presentation again? Okay, perfect. So the purpose of this little activity is to show all of these ethical dilemmas and how perception and the influences can influence our judgments, because there are other elements, what we spoke about this identity, our background, the place we live, which influence us. And even if we share some values with other people, we can understand some events, some issues like this story differently. And this little activity show that there are really many diverse ways of understanding one story. And we have to be aware of that when we start the dialogue. We need to be open for that the participants of the dialogue might interpret, might understand this completely different. And for example, here you can see some examples given what can influence the understanding of this story. So it's like the contemporary issues like arranged marriages, honor killing, identity, or maybe some issues like the way of raising the children in the families. That can also influence the way of understanding of this kind of stories. You might think this story is not related to the topic of the culture of the Jewish culture, but how many stories you can put instead of this story and ask the participants to do some little voting, or ask them how do they understand it. And I'm pretty sure that many of them understand it completely different than you. And it's just to be open for that, and maybe not to say them that you're not right, because maybe they are right, maybe you're not right, but maybe you both are right. So this is the way how we should at least try to build the connections, build the relation, and try to lead the dialogue. And until now, we were talking about different aspects, but this acronym you can also find in your materials. I think it's really great visual aid for all of people who forget about the main rules in the dialogue, that one of the main rules is respect. And here you can see respect, education, safety, perspective, empathy, compassion, and trust. On these values, we definitely should build the dialogue. And this is kind of commandments for the people who want to lead or organize the dialogue sessions, who want to organize some events based on the dialogue. We shouldn't forget about these few little words which are really powerful, and without them, we cannot move forward. And I'm really happy that we have a chance to work together here. And I'm really happy to hear so many different ideas of the dialogue. And what is important is to keep in mind also this, that we are talking about the dialogue, and the particular theme of this year's edition is the dialogue. So please keep that in mind. So don't move in the direction of the debate, because there was a time to have a debate. This year, let's try to have a dialogue. Let's try to be more open. And I think that the current situation in the pandemic time limits us on a different ways, but also maybe give us some more opportunities. If not that, maybe we won't be able to meet all together today. So let's look on the bright side of life always, and try to find some elements which can help us to build this understanding, build the dialogue, and to involve more and more people. Because what is always the biggest danger is art for art, and to try to involve people who are already involved, who already deal with that. The challenge is to invite others who maybe are on the other side, let's say, maybe who are not in favor to participate, but to show them that you are open and you invite them and you want to communicate. Maybe that will change the relation, and maybe that will be the first brick which will build this bridge between you and between your organization, between your communities. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer. You can reach me also via email. And until September, I'm also to your disposal, and I will be happy to help you during your activities and planning your activities. So thank you very much, guys.